Thank you all for joining us, and particular thanks to Chris Davis of Bullpen, who's the presenter today. My name's Chris Withers. I'm Ecclesiastical's Broker Distribution Director, and we thought we'd keep it simple by naming ourselves the same, Chris and Chris, so that keeps everything easy when you're asking questions. I'm sure we'll be able to work out who you're directing them to. This is the second webinar that Chris has delivered for us this year as part of our Selected for You programme. The first one was on coaching and is still available on the Broker Training Hub that you'll find on our website, along with all the other webinars that we've delivered this year. Chris and I also did a podcast earlier this year on this topic, actually, just to give a sort of a high level warm up to today's webinar. And all of our podcasts are also available wherever you get your podcasts from, the likes of Apple Play and Spotify, and they go under the heading of Covered in 15 because they're completed in 15 minutes. So please do take an opportunity to listen to podcasts and view previous recordings of webinars. But today, Chris is going to talk to us about the sales process, and I think you'll find this a very entertaining session. So I'm going to hand over to you, Chris.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Yeah, look, thank you for inviting me back. As you say, it's my second webinar. It's a pleasure to work with the whole team at Ecclesiastical. And I genuinely feel it's a privilege today to have the opportunity to chat to you about my passion, which is helping insurance professionals grow and be the best they can be in their roles. I've written today's session for a number of people, so definitely for new joiners to the industry, especially account handlers, account executives who have daily conversations with clients and insurers. I think the session will also be really helpful for account handlers and executives who've not benefited from any previous sales training. And I really think it will be a useful reminder as well for some fundamental yet easily forgotten skills if you are more experienced. Finally, I think today will also be really useful for team managers or leaders who are looking to develop their team members.
You just live off the royalty from that.
Okay, we've got a few people not on mute, so if you could pop yourself on mute, that'd be great. Thank you. So yes, team leaders and team managers who want to develop their own team members. So maybe on their overall sales skills approach, their confidence, or even working on some specific metrics such as conversion or retention, and that's where a sales model or cycle can make a big difference. So in my last webinar, I explained that I was really fortunate enough to work at an insurance company that have heavily invested in my development, particularly my soft skills, my approach to sales, my conversational skills. And for the last 6 years, I've been trying to pass on that investment to underwriters and brokers. And the topic of a sales model or sales cycle is one that continually amazes me in the impact it can have on the people that I'm working with, but also on the impact it can have on the result of the conversation. So the impact it has on our customers. And I'm really, really passionate about today's topic. We don't have time in a way to do it justice, but I think it's really, really important. And I hope it can be helpful to you, your brokerage, and most importantly, your customers. My top tip today is to take notes and ask questions via the chat function. So Chris is going to monitor the chat function for me. Share tips via the chat function. Share advice that's relevant to the things that I'm putting up on the screen, and get involved in the interactive questions that I'm asking. So to summarize, at the end of the day, any sales model or sales cycle has one primary function, which is to ensure the client obtains the best outcome for them. So the more tips you can share, even if it's with some of your competitors, the more as an industry we increase the chances of that happening, which I think is something we should all focus on. So let's start today by getting you involved. So please share in the chat if you currently use a sales model or process in your conversations with customers, or even in your conversations with insurers, and if you do, what are the stages of that model or process? Do you have a name for them? And whilst we're doing that, I'm going to ask Chris to share his personal experience of using a sales model or process.
Thanks, Chris. We were actually just talking, weren't we, before we let everyone in through the lobby about the sales process and how we all learnt it at an early stage and how it's still relevant today. And the main reason we were saying in terms of its relevance now is that scenario where the meeting doesn't go so well. The person that you're with is not engaging in the conversation or is not flowing in the way that you anticipated, and having a sales process is so handy in those scenarios in which you can fall back on. Establishing needs, I think, is always the most critical element of any sales process. You've got to understand what it is that the customer wants, otherwise you end up feeling or acting like one of those double glazing salespeople that we all dread, where they've got a product and they just want to kind of make you buy it, whether you want it or not. So establishing needs and being able to adapt what you've got to those needs is such an important part, I think. And as we talked in the podcast, covered in 15 for anyone that missed the intro that I did earlier on, but the planning and preparation, when I was writing down the sales process that I sort of tend to follow, I forgot to write down planning and preparation, which is fundamental. If you don't get that bit right, then where do you go next? And whilst I've been talking, people have been contributing now to the chat, Chris, you'll be pleased to hear.
Yeah, I
So
can see one message. Can you see more than one?
No, I can see one, but that's a start.
Okay. Right, it is a start. It is a start. Yeah. So thank you, Jason, for contributing. And I agree, actually. Some great things in what you just said there. That building rapport, establishing needs, features, benefits, overcoming objections. We're going to cover all of that off today. And the fact that actually there's no other comments in there doesn't surprise me, because this is a part of sales training that I just find people have not had before. They've not had the privilege of having this conversation. So it just makes it, for me, even more important that we share this. We share this today. So hopefully by the end of today, you will all be confident in using a sales cycle or a sales model that can help you in your conversations with your customers. Okay, so let's go back to the start of my journey with when I was first introduced to a sales model. And as it says on the slide, it all started in a hotel airport, that's where my sales training took place in 2004 as a trainee underwriter. And I can honestly say it changed my career. Until then, I was struggling in my conversations with brokers and when I was going out to meetings with clients. And what a sales model did was give me confidence to be able to be sure in what I was saying, to know I was doing the right thing, that I was following the right steps to get the most out of my conversation for my client and for my broker. And I used it, I have, and I continue to use it throughout my career. And as I'll point out in a bit, you can use this in phone calls, meetings, you can use it outside of insurance, and it will help you get the results that you desire and the results that the client desires. But you do need the 3 Ps. You're going to have to practice it. You're going to have to give it a go. And you know what? Sometimes it's not going to work. It's going to feel clunky. It's not going to feel right. But the more you practice it, the more patience you have with it, and the more persistence that you display in using it, eventually it will become normal. It will become intuitive, and you'll start to see the benefits flow through each individual stage of the cycle. So why and where should we use this? So there's no point me talking about a sales cycle without being clear on the benefits of it. And as we started to touch on, and Chris started to touch on this, and Jason in his comments, it gives you structure. We all need a structure in the things that we do, because if we are surprised by something that happens, we can fall back on that structure. We can go back to the process in the cycle where we knew we were supposed to be, and that helps us get those results. It will bring you results. The phases of the cycle I'm about to introduce to you are designed to make sure that you get the right outcome at the end and the client gets the right outcome. And it will give you confidence. When you know what you're doing, when you know what you're supposed to do, you come across more positive, more relaxed. And confidence is a crucial part of any sales conversation. It's a crucial part of this model. As I've said a few times, it ensures good outcomes for the client. It makes sure that you use the most of your time with that client. Clients are time poor, as you know better than I do. So you have limited time. So when you've got this model in play, you know you're going to make the most of that time. It's brilliant for coaching and development. I'll touch on that towards the end of the webinar, but you can use the stages of the model to identify, do you know what, I could have done that a little bit differently, or there's parts of that that I could improve. So it's really, really fantastic for those things. Where can you use it? Obviously in client phone calls, client meetings face-to-face. If you are cold calling, you can use this. You can use it to prepare for incoming calls, for large clients. You can use it wherever you want. You can also use it outside of insurance. I've many times have used a model, a sales model, to help me with my family decide where they want to go, what they want to do with my friends. It's a very useful model to frame conversations for you. So I just want to take you back to something that I introduced in the first webinar, and that's the care mindset. And this mindset is a great partner to the sales cycle, to the policy sales cycle. Okay, so the care mindset is really simple. It's be and help others to be curious, be aware, be responsible, and be effective. And curiosity is a vital ethos when we're looking to understand our clients' needs and their situation. We have to raise their awareness as part of our conversation with them. So in other words, their awareness of what they want from their insurance, what their current problems are, and they don't always know that when they start the conversation with you. And we have a responsibility to fulfill our duty to our client. We have to be effective in our actions and our skills, and a sales model is crucial to being effective. So the policy sales cycle needs this mindset. Let's start having a look at the cycle right now. So there are 6 stages to the policy sales cycle. Most sales models have 4 stages. I've added 2, one at the beginning and one at the end. And I believe they are vitally important to ensuring the success of the cycle, both for the specific situation that you are using the cycle for and for your future conversations. So here they are. I'm just going to step through them and then we'll look at each stage in more detail. So the first stage is preparation and planning. Once you've done that, you've got to open your meeting, open your call, open your meeting. That's a really, really important phase. Once you've opened, you've got to learn about the client, learn about the situation, learn about their problems. Following that, you need to involve the client in the conversation with you. Then we get to the bit that everybody finds difficult, which is closing. And finally, and one of the stages that I've added is the you phase. And the link between you and preparation is one of the key reasons that this is different to other models. This is a cycle. It never ends. Each time you use the cycle, you have an opportunity to learn, to achieve, maybe even to fail, but learn from that failure and improve for the next time. So let's start now to look at the first stage, which is planning and preparation in the second part of the webinar.